Okay.
We ready. Welcome to Verbal Pick Radio, where we give you a verbal image of life, and we are every day. People like to welcome y'all to the show. Look, today we're gonna talk about a subject titled "American Pimp 101" with Loki. I got my partner DFlem from Atlanta. I got my partner Rico from Dallas down here. We're gonna get into a lively discussion about what's going on in the world today, and I got none other than Low Key on the phone, and you all know Low Key because he's been on previous shows before, dropping that wisdom and knowledge. Brother Low Key, what's going on, bro?
Man, it's all good. What's going on, Brother Black?
You got it, God. What's up, DFlem?
It's all you, Vince. Vince Cold Black.
What's up, Rico?
You know it, man. You the man.
Yes, sir, bro. So look, we're gonna describe the term American Pimpin 101 to show how black folks been pimped by the system for over 400 years. So, Brother Low Key,
Yes, sir.
can you start out with the first example?
First example is that when it comes to, I use the, we was talking about this particular post where we was talking about the building and the private security company that the Jewish communities use in order to protect and serve their community. That's when you get into jurisdiction. Once you start dealing with your own courts, there's a Jewish court of law. That's the building. And, then you have the consulate of Israel. You got the embassy in Israel. You have national origin. You got all these particular things that are, fall into contracts which dictates the politics and how a group of people move and how they trade with each other. And these are some things that, the black community is not discussing by and large in regards to how to get into some problem solving and start really getting into the game, and getting into certain seats and positions and, understanding more about corporations and 501D and, getting into, dealing with your own jurisdiction and talking about self-governing, and self-determination and dealing with indigenous rights and things of that nature. It's all things we got access to. And if you don't have access to it, it's because of some American pimping that's been going down on, these people who, haven't been able to quite figure everything out.
Well, yeah, true indeed. Because one of the tricks that they use is they want to dumb down the people, right? And he said that there's three things that he never teach black people, and that was the science of business, the science of war, and the science of mating. Because with those knowledge, if you acquire that knowledge, then there's no way he can manipulate you or pimp you like he's pimping black folks today, right? And so it takes minds such as yourself to study that information and then relay it back out to the public or to black people so we can understand the value and first having our own security company, But it's a mindset that goes along with that, though. Wouldn't you agree?
Yes, sir.
Because the people
self-governing mindset.
You got to have a self-governing mindset and a self-governing spirit. But it's hard to have a self-governing spirit when damn, man, the clothes you get come from him, the food you get come from him, hell, you know what I mean? Damn near that do for self spirit has to be cultivated and brought back again.
Yes, sir.
That's a fact. But I got a question though. But Rico, look, how do you incorporate stock trading as a form of us as a society in order to build wealth?
And that's a good question, Black. It's just a lot of the times, I think we've been us as a people systemically, racism. It's not too many of us. We're gonna have these, C-suite jobs. We're not gonna own business. I'm not saying we don't. So I think the next best thing is, you can own some ownership of a company. And I think the biggest key is, as us understanding, how do we build wealth in terms of investing, 401k, stocks, understanding the market. Because if you look at that, you can have your job, whatever career, trade, whatever you're doing, and then on the side, use that as kind of, if you will, a side hustle and just learning the business. And it just takes, guys, we got to spend more time, we've looking at games and trying to be the hot trends and, this and this and this. We got to educate ourselves with these markets, the equities, the bonds, and 401k. And I think at the end of the day, it's about economics, wealth, generational wealth. And we got to get that going in order to start sustaining ourselves from a business standpoint. If we don't have that, man, I don't care what we talking about. We can be marching, protesting, saying this and voting. If we don't have money, man, we can't even start buying our own businesses.
Well, yeah, that's a fact. The economic portion of sustaining your own self is very key in order to grow, because these topics that we're discussing is very important, because we have to lay down a foundation on what to do next after the protesting and after the riots settle down. After this energy we got where everybody's heated, we got to start building, because if we don't, we'll be right back in the same position a year from now, still saying or singing, "We shall overcome." Right?
Right.
Now, this from a partner, DFlem, who I noticed you travel through different countries and whatnot, right? Now, in your travels, how do you compare the reception that black people receive versus how we treat it in America? Or is it the same all over?
Well, that is a good question. When I was in Europe, in Prague, I felt like I was invisible. When I was in my hotel, people would speak, acknowledge you. But when I went out into the city, I sat down and had some coffee. People would walk by. It was like they didn't even look at you, don't acknowledge you. So it depends on where you're at. They look at you different because all they see is what the media shows. The black Americans, they don't give you a chance. South America, they speak, they're friendly, they acknowledge you, but it's like they don't really respect you because I think of what the media portrays us as. So, same thing along this country. I mean, at least here in America, the white people, they show you they don't like you. They let you know we don't like you, and they're going to show it. Other countries, they hide it a little bit better.
Yeah, that
piggybacking on what y'all was talking about with JP or Rico, when I was doing insurance, it is impossible, and it's like talking to a brick wall, to talk to black people about how important insurance is, to have it for your parents, for your kids, for everybody. That's how these people built their generational wealth. That's why when they die, they happy because they know they getting all this money. Right. When we die, we all sad and crying and da-da-da-da-da. That's why it's so different. That's how they build this wealth, and we need to get on board and learn that and not be afraid to talk about death and things of that nature. But
no.
Let me add to that, Derek.
That's well said.
Excellent point. It talks about, like you said, when we die, in terms of life insurance, we got to have those tough talks in terms of the will and whatnot, man. When we die, most of us, we got a GoFundMe account. Everybody, mom, uncles got to chip in, for the funeral. When they die, they're talking about who's getting the land or whatnot. It just keeps on transferring. When we die, man, we don't have anything. And so we got to, it sucks, but we got to start looking at, net worth, generational wealth, and that's where it starts. And I know, and I was listening to a podcast about 2 weeks ago, and they did an analogy in terms of, man, we're 400 years behind. It's like you playing Monopoly. They are starting the game 400 rounds, and we coming in on the 401 round. There's no way you can make up. And then you got all these rules against you, man. But that's kind of where we're at. But we gotta figure out a way, game plan, and get in the game.
True. So brother Loki, brother Lo.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir. Now I know you've been working on something, and that's why you bringing up the situation for security. But as far as breaking the code or breaking the stronghold of the pimp hand that he has laid upon us, because a lot of our people not finna really get out and start throwing blows in a sense, right? But mentally, how can we remove that pimp hand from around our neck that the Caucasian has on us?
Well, when it comes to any particular civilization, when it comes to their politics, all their politics is born out of their spiritual system. So, what people call, the moral standard for a particular nation, that's coming out of their spiritual system or their religion. So, and when you get into religion, you get into a lot of the business side, the Bible and the Quran and Sharia law and all these things have been used in the court, and they're used to make decisions. We've talked about it before on the podcast that the U.S. has deemed the Bible the infallible word of God. When you start getting into divine law, ecclesiastical law, religious rights, and they fall under a lot of, different treaties and things. It's just that whenever you go into a case, the more things if you have indigenous rights, if you're using international law, if you're using your religious rights, if you're using Sharia law, if you're using the Bible or the Torah, if you're in the Jewish court of law, if you're just a person that is Jewish as far as their religion, who is using their particular religion in order to debate what are going to be the terms of the contract. I came across something. I want to do a little bit more research. If I'm not mistaken, the people in Germany were granting automatic dual citizenship for Jewish people, Jewish being the religion, German being what fall under their national origin, in terms of what kind of deal that they were offering. And those are things that we need to, we're already having a discussion. So just for anybody who wants to partake, it adds on to one's status and, the way that people contract certain rights and privileges. And just in terms of trade, the rights and privileges is international. It's not just subjugated just to, within U.S. jurisdiction. There's other jurisdictions here on different levels. And, even with, I see some people are into the American Indian, and I think we've spoken on this before. Mm-hmm. They have semi-sovereign status. And from what I've seen and what they got going on, some people think that even because of the $5 Indian thing, that they were buying into that status. But upon me researching, these different statuses and levels of contracting, that is just even within the title itself of having semi-sovereign status is not the optimal status for any of us to be looking into. At best, I would say a secondary add-on in terms of being able to tap into some of the, things that go along with that particular contract. But that's why, we talk about the more status because of all the dynamics of it. Because you had, when I talk to my family that are Christians, there was Morisco, so you could still use more as a race and a national origin. And going the route of getting the court order, it's a lot of people out here talking about the unorthodox, how they already did all that. There's already a system that's in place to contract internationally. So you can go get your court orders for whatever that you want to have a legal right to and just get into contracting. And that's what's going on in America's business and its communities surrounding us, as far as the Asian community, the Hispanic community, and what's labeled the white community and the black community. And if you look at we always talk about Federal Directive number 15. Everybody is considered an original group of peoples or original peoples, except for Hispanic people and black people. And there's a reason for that, because they're talking about rights to land. They're talking about certain estates that were, when there was wars in the past, how were they given over? Are treaties even being addressed in court? Because all these grants that these American Indian tribes got, whether it's Alaska Natives, they're going into courts and they're slanging them treaties. Shout out to Mayor Chris. They're using those treaties and they're using those contracts in order for them to get certain grants so they can build up their business. Because that's all that's going on around here. If you got a bunch of people in a particular place, everybody's just doing business and there's levels to it. So if you're just ignoring and glossing over these basic 101 concepts, then you're not really. That's why Dr. Claude Anderson says that after 100 years pass and people are not moving. You got a lot of individuals with millions, but the whole group is not taking that next step over. When you look at the Latino community and how right here in this city they can be self-sufficient. They don't have to leave out of their neighborhoods in order to do anything. They got a grocery store. They got everything that they need, and it goes levels up as you go into some of the other communities.
Right. Well, yeah, every community, the Asian community got a little Chinatown, you got a little Italy, a little Greek town. But the problem I believe with us is that we still trying to define what an American is, or are we truly an American, or something that fits us, as a people, that we can get behind and get under and feel comfortable. Because although we might say we're Americans, we not comfortable in this society. We're not comfortable with the police protection. I mean, we skeptical about everything, even when it comes down to the IRS. So it almost seems as though you're saying we might need to separate and build our own, or whatever communities we may have within the city, start owning that community. I guess through, like Darren said, through get your insurance companies. Then you're gonna need some money management firms. You're gonna need some grocery stores. You're gonna need a form of religion that white folk didn't give us.
Right.
Go ahead. Well, it's a case in point. The Black Wall Street.
Okay.
Tulsa. There's 4 or 5 examples where black people say, let's put together, let's do our thing. We got black businesses, we got black banks, we got this and this, and all of a sudden, boom, something happens. The other people come in, knock it down, blow it up. So what happens, I guess you pick some skepticism in terms of, hey, we do this again, it's going to be not in that form, but it's going to be some systemic racism in terms of, hey, you won't get denied here, you're going to get kicked out of here, but we've done that.
I agree. I think we as a people need to focus on, we're so focused on owning our own businesses. You got 10 people that own their own business, but they not employing nobody. We need to build businesses where we actually employ people. If I got a business and I can employ 25 black people, that's good. But we don't need 25 people with their own business working for themselves and not employing nobody. We got to think on a larger scale.
Like owning a big grocery store, a canning factory, or
whatever, manufacturing, whatever it is.
No, that just encompasses on ourselves. Again, we continue to look at this and that. Like you said, we were talking earlier. There's no way we should not have our own, hair products. There's no way we should. Why is it?
Right.
We can have our own, weeds and whatnot. We should be owning that. We should have that sold up.
Yep. Now remember, this is all going into post George Floyd, because we can't go back to business as usual or the way things was pre George Floyd, and that's the whole purpose of this conversation, and glad to have Brother Loki on, discussing this. But brother, I hope that coming up out of this incident, because they had another police shooting in Atlanta today, that we can start building and implementing some of the suggestions that you made. Now, when I interviewed Quanell X, he got a point program that he put out, as a for an agenda, but that was basically an agenda dealing with the policing in the black community. But we want to introduce your program as far as the security firms and the jurisdictions, and something that would give us a solid foundation. Because let's face it, black folks not leaving America going back nowhere, but we got to be comfortable where we at. So, brother,
yes, sir.
So how do we make sure we comfortable?
By taking what we got and just building on it, taking it to the next level. And, dual citizenship. I like what the brother was saying on the African Diaspora channel when he was really going in. He's really pushing the line for people to go to Africa. But, I'm pushing the line for it because if there's even if you're not, dealing with the Moore status, all this particular template can be used for whatever. It don't matter who you are, what you're doing. Me and the homie Slippy or RBG, we build on all forms of business all the time. Same thing with me, you, Black, and everybody else.
Right.
So.
No, I'm listening to no. I just gonna ask you, right? I'm about to say, what about Ghana though? What about Ghana's offering dual citizenship? Should we take that?
Well, for Moors, they need to be looking at Morocco.
Okay.
I heard Mayor Chris, they brought up Liberia. They said that was a place that we set up for ourselves in passing while we were there. So Liberia is something to look into.
So you're right. Liberia is somewhere we can look into. Liberia.
I've heard Ghana.
Yeah, Ghana, Liberia, Philippines.
Get some international business going. Which is already being done. So just making that the culture. Because when you say, well, how do we impact the mindset? Well, this is another gateway to get into this kind of mindset to where you even have these kind of discussions. Because for me, it just came through music. But for somebody else, it could come through just what's going on right now. It could be, you get in a conversation about race and national origin and how these things play a part, and even nationality. Even though that's citizenship here in the U.S., how does that play a part? How does citizenship play a part? And that could be the gateway to get to all these other more advanced concepts when you get into metaphysics and things of that nature, which has an even greater impact on this particular consciousness that we're dealing with. Because then you get into programming the subconscious that we're dealing with.
Right. See, and we got to break that down because we got to remember we are bringing along a lot of people. It's almost like a battle. People went to battle, they won their freedom, and now they're looking for direction on which way to go. So things have to be broken down to its simplest form so they can get an understanding so they can move forward together. And that's why we got to keep doing shows and where you break down the purpose of the subconscious mind and where you give them understanding on how things function, how things work, so they can get a clear understanding, so they don't feel left behind or feel like they lost. You know what I mean? Because each day people want to be free. Each day people tired of police brutality. Each day they tired of their living conditions and what's going on in society, and they want a way out. So when a person fights and get their way out, then instead of them looking around saying, okay, what do I do next? Like what happened in slavery. Once they was free, some didn't know what to do because they never been free before. Now you got shows like this and brothers like you that's a guide that can at least point them in the right direction. On how to use that mind, and how to build, bruh. You know what I mean? Because it's time we gonna have to use everything at our disposal. Magic, cosmology, astronomy, the religion as far as the true knowledge of it or the true purpose of it. We gotta use everything at our disposal at this point. Because if not, and like what's the brother was saying, Cornel West was saying that black folks gotta get ready for this backlash that's gonna come from all of this. So, we gotta get prepared for this second wave. But yeah, bruh. I mean, in my terms of what's going on now and the people I talk to, they looking for structure because they know the previous way wasn't working. So they looking for something, and they believe in something.
Man, I was too, man. I was just telling my T-Jones that I tried to get with a gang of Sufi orders, some in Africa, some here, and for whatever reason, I just didn't get in direct contact with the people that I needed to get in contact with. So, we're doing it on our own, but we've been trying to, get with other brothers and sisters to be a part of what they had going on. We know the politics behind it.
Right.
So as far as it runs whole countries.
Yeah, we finna create our own, bro. We're gonna create our own order out of the spirit, of the movement that's taking place right now today. You know what I mean? Because we in this thing in America, and it's gonna create new ways and a new energy, a new mindset, and a new spirit. And we gonna build it. We gonna build it from that spirit. You know what I mean? Because it's like if you've been in war with somebody, you fighting back and forth. When it's over with, you're not the same person you were coming into the fight. You a different person once you come out on the other side of it.
Sure.
So yeah, we on the other side of this thing. So like I say, the communities, black communities, got to put their big boy and big girl pants on, and we got work to do. That's what that is. But man, I would like to have you, bro, come back and we talk about creating this Sufi order, creating these security firms, and next time we'll have a email or something that those who interested can email and get more information and start building this thing up, from the ground up.
Yes, sir.
For those that's interested, because regardless, we gonna move anyway.
You already know.
You know what I'm saying? But out of love for those and no man get left behind, then all we can do is put it on the table.
Right.
That's what's up. Brother Loki,
Right.
Till next time, bro. We gonna put it together. Anything else you like to add before we get out of here?
Oh man, just shout out to all the brothers and the sisters out there, man. And we doing it on the private side of things, So that's what time it is, man. And we own it. We're not just talking about it. We hands on deck.
That's what I'm talking about. Bro, Pick Radio. We out.
Yeah.